Hey everybody, Jesse here with CNC Smart. I'm pretty excited today. Today's my first video, so I really hope you guys enjoy. Today I'm going to go over using surfacing to extend boundaries. Boundaries are just one of them things that are kind of a gray area. They can be a little bit tricky, so I really hope that this helps any of you guys out. And if it does, let me know what you think. So what I've done is I've modeled up a block that has some good rolling geometry here. And my whole goal was to model it in a way where the rolling geometry kind of comes to a steep slope right here before the edge of our block. A lot of times these are the areas that can be a little bit tricky when it comes to boundaries, because if we're working with the tool center on boundary or something like that, typically what will happen is the tool will end up a little bit short of going beyond that, and we're going to be left with some type of stock down here, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's just jump to manufacture real quick, and I'm just going to create a new setup. I like to program from the top of my parallels or the bottom of the stock. So I'm going to put that right down there. Our body is correct, and we'll just go ahead and click OK. So let's start this off by doing just a standard pocket roughing. In this case, I'm using a 1-inch arrow chipper. And I wrote this template in a way that it's going to leave us some pretty good steps or scallops, so we can really get a good look at what's being left behind when we do this next strategy. So from here, what I'll do is I'll jump another template here, and we're just going to grab a parallel finishing. So you'll see what I mean by, if the tool is being programmed from the center of the tool and we're looking straight down, as soon as we look at our in-process stock here, we're going to notice that these scallops are left over towards the end of this block. So we know that we need to find a way to extend this boundary. There's one really good quick trick that you could do, would be to enable contact point boundary here. So that's one good way of doing it. The only issue that I have with this one is once you activate that, you don't have too much for manipulation, let's say. And then on top of that, if this block isn't perfect to the model in size, a lot of times what we're going to see is some linking gouging on this area here, because every time it's going to move over here, what's going to happen is it's doing that right at the tangency of our ball cutter. In a case like this, it wouldn't be too big of an issue, I don't think, but there's other cases where you're not going to want to see those linking moves on your actual part. So let's jump back into this real quick, and I'll deactivate this. And let's say that another common trick would be to go beyond this boundary by just slightly under the radius of our cutter. So in this case, I'm using a 1/2-inch ball. And if my reference is tool center on boundary and my additional offset is 0.249, we're getting right up to the edge of what we're allowed to do without this tool falling all the way off our block. So the major disadvantage of running this way would be that, as you can see, we're milling a lot of extra space out this way and around the entire part, which that's only going to add to cycle times, and in most cases can be a big problem. So what I want to do is show you guys a trick by using the surfacing tab in the design portion on how you can kind of define a little bit more of a clean boundary and get a better idea of what it is that you want to machine. So let's go ahead, jump back into here. I'm going to call this 0 again. Click OK, and let's go ahead and jump to the design portion. So in the design portion, we're going to go up to the surface tab. And what I like to do is click the offset surface. So I'm just going to grab this area up here. As far as I'm concerned, it took all of the surfacing that I want. I'm just going to click OK. Now what that does is it lays a surface right on top of our surface of our body. Now if I hide our solid model, we can see that I have this surface just laying here ready for some manipulating. So there's a couple different things we can do, but in this case, let's just start out by going with extend. So I'm going to jump up to modify here. I'm going to grab my extend tool. I'll hide this solid. And let's just start out with something in the middle of the road. So I'll say, let's extend this curve by, let's say 0.25 and click OK. And what I also want to do is extend this curve by a value as well. Now, in this case, because we're not so steep, I'll give it something lower, like let's say 100 thousandths. Click OK. Let's show our solid model. Now, when we look at this, we can see that these are clearly going beyond our model by a little bit. And for start, I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to jump back to manufacture. And let's jump back into our parallel finishing toolpath. Now, what we're going to do is, just so I can show you guys a little bit better, I'm going to hide my solid model and I'm going to manually select my boundary now. So I'm just going to go by chain. Let's start out by grabbing, let's say these two, that one, maybe one out here, and I'll use close chain to bring it all back home. Click OK. And when we take a look at this from the top, you're going to notice that this chain now follows all the way out throughout the surface, which is exactly what we want. From there, in order for this toolpath to recognize to continue the machining beyond this, we're going to want to activate our model tab, and under the model tab, select our new surface body here. And I just did that by hitting the bodies. So from here, let's click OK. All right, so this is kind of what I wanted. So what we're going to see is what we did worked, but as we can see, it's not quite enough to get this part correct. Okay, but if we look up here, we can tell that it went beyond where we wanted it to this way. So there's a couple things we can do. We can tell it to go outside the boundary by X amount and hope that we get this, or we can take another look back in the design tab. So that's what I'm going to show you here. So if you jump to design, jump back into surface, from here, what I would do is I would create a ruled surface. So if we jump up right here, let's go to ruled, and I'm going to go ahead and select the edge I want. One nice thing about ruled is we can change the orientation in which this extends out. So let's say in this case, I want to bring this thing out to here and call that good. I can change the angle at which this looks at how far or where it's going to extend. So it's a pretty handy trick to have in the back pocket when it comes to blocks like this, because now we can alter this any way we want. So I'll go ahead and accept that. And let's see what we can do here in the manufacturing tab now. So let's jump back into our parallel. Go ahead and click this and let's edit our chain. I'll jump back into the open contour here. Now let's select these curves that are running on the outside, and I'm going to jump back to close chain. So make sure it loops all the way back. Click OK. And then under this body here, what we're going to want to do is make sure that this other surface out here is also active. Click OK. So now as we can see, this toolpath is extending well beyond the edge of our part. So if I hide these two surfaces, we can take a look here. And if I bring up our in-process stock, we can see that it's being machined cleanly off the edge of this part. And this thing's going to be looking pretty good. The reason I like to do this is you can use these surfaces for so much. You can, if you select the surfaces by themselves on the outside curves, that's fine. One nice thing is because you referenced the solid model to make these surfaces, you can also select the surfaces, the curves on the surface, along with the curves on your solid model as well. And that could be really handy in some other situations. The other thing is now we're machining beyond this tangency, but we're not machining too far beyond the edges of the blocks here. So we're saving a lot of time on these blocks. So if you have any blocks that are real similar, or let's say you have 10 of this type of block to do, once you do this surfacing once and you run it, you're going to be saving a lot on your cycle time. And then from here, if you wanted to change some of your additional offset, then we can go, let's say 30 thousandths beyond. Now, what that's going to do is ensure that if you have any extra stock on the outside here, you can cleanly take care of that, but you're not going so far beyond on the outside to where you're just machining a bunch of air for no reason. So again, understanding some of these surfacing tricks are really handy. You can use them for a lot more than just a block like this. I kind of went a long way around to show you the ruled surface as well. If this wasn't so drastic right here, we could probably get it just with the extension the first time. But I wanted to incorporate that rule to show you a couple different ways that you can go about adjusting those surfaces. So yeah, I really hope that this video helps out at all and maybe takes care of some issues that some of you might have been having down the road. And again, if you ever find yourself having some trouble with some boundaries, jump into that surfacing tab and just kind of play around with it a little bit and see if you can get something to where you like. So again, I hope you guys like the video, and I'm looking forward to doing some more for you guys. So thanks for stopping in. Hope you guys have a good one.